Okay, this is a preliminary video of a 5.7 Volvo GSI before takedown. So we're trying to get the rear cover off so we can get a engine stand on this engine. This is the ignition module. Bolt there, bolt here, or stud holding the ignition coil on. That's a new design compared to what they used to do. Used to have a system that bolted to the back of the head, but I see they're no longer using that. So just going around the flywheel cover to see how everything's together. You got a nut and a lock washer, then the ground wire, and then the I don't see another nut under there, so that was just it. Bolt here, starter, nothing out of the ordinary the rest of the way. You got your 3 bolts holding your there's your alarm horn there, here, your boat to engine harness interface, power steering fluid cooler. Let's see, I'm just trying to point out things that are unusual about this engine. Got a knock sensor. Again, I don't like these sideways drains like that, because you take that out, you don't have a straight shot in the engine, you can't clean it out with a stick to make sure it drains all the way. Obviously, I already showed that. That's a major problem. Engine may not be salvageable. Just trying to document how the accessories come off. This was a probably a inlet from a hot water system on the boat to make hot water. There's the possibly your, let's see, what would that be? This would be the inlet back to the pump. This would probably possibly off the pump, because that would be your hot water out to make hot water on the boat. This is the accessory system. You got a idler pulley here, tensioner here. It's very similar to an engine I just finished, except it had one other accessory, I think, that I can't remember. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe identical. I just didn't remember. Anyway, that's your serpentine belt system. Water pump, engine water pump here, or raw water pump, engine pump up here. Throttle body. Going around, you got a nut on the stud there, a bolt there. Let's try to figure where the another bolt up in there, a bolt there, a nut on the stud there, and that's what holds this entire accessory on. Alternating connections. It's very similar to the MP I just did. All right, so I think that's all. Oh, it does not have a remote oil cooler, so it's got the oil filter bolted right to the block. Very rusted out block. The your oil alarm, pressure alarm, is already rusted, corroded, and broken off. This was the tab there, so that's we got to be replaced. Doesn't have an easy drain system, so this is the owner said this was freeze damage. It was not freeze damage. This engine destroyed itself. All right, that's all. Let's continue with the teardown. Okay, the heads are now off on this 5.7 Volvo Penta, and obviously you can see there cylinder number 3 it is. Wait a minute, that's cylinder number, sorry, that's the front, so that's 246. So that's cylinder number 6, and it's obviously broken, but the good news is the piston did not shatter. It's still intact, so it protected the head from damage. I don't see any contact with the valves on any of these pistons, so this side's okay other than that one cylinder. So maybe the block is okay inside. I don't know. Won't know until I get inside. So that's the even side of the engine. On the odd side, we've got cylinder number 3 is also twisted, so that means 2 rods broke inside this engine. And you see these marks right here indicate that the piston contacted the valves. So got to make sure that when I get the valve job done on this cylinder, to know that the valves are probably bent, and they have to put in new valves, or maybe straighten them. I don't know if they can straighten them, but they'll put in new valves on that cylinder. So that's cylinder 1, 3, 5, and 7. So it's like 3 contacted the head. So all right, it's now time to drain the oil and flip it over and get the oil pan off and see what the internal damage is. Okay, I've just got the oil pan off and practically had to beat it off with a hammer. So let's see what kind of carnage we got going on in here. So there's a piece of a rod cap right there. That was one of the connecting rods, the rod cap. This is probably a piece of piston. A whole bunch of pieces of pistons in there. The rod's completely gone off number one. I'm guessing that's let's see, the one, or let's see which one. That would have been number, yeah, that was number one. So number one rod's gone. Looks like number let's see, what is that one? That's number three rod's gone. Holy cow, there's another rod right there, gone right there, down there. Yeah, this thing took a major grenade or something. I'm not sure what caused it, but I'm gonna take it apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to clean these pieces out and see what's salvageable. Looks like the crank, that journal right there looks really bad. I'm not sure it can be saved. This one doesn't look too bad. That one can be turned and fixed up right there. I think piece of metal right there is gonna be hard to get off, but anyway, I think the crank's destroyed. Cam looks like it might be okay. Not sure about the block yet. I see chunks missing out of the block right down there. Same on the other side. That's not really a destroyer though. So I don't know yet. All right, we can start taking it apart and see we can save this block. Okay, so far 3 pistons have come loose from the rod. That one was, I don't know which one it was, but it came loose from its rod. These 2 over here, it also come loose from the rod. So I believe the one right there in the oil pan was that'd be number 6 right there, and the other 2 are numbers 1 and 3. Yeah, 1 down there and 3 over here. I just knocked them out. Looks like the cam has got some damage in there. I'm not sure if it's too bad. Cam's kind of hard to replace. Well, not really. On the V8, it's not too bad. So it looks like the crank, it looks like what may have caused this to do what it did, explode, is look like that journal got, the bearings went bad there first and got very overheated. That's why it turned color like that. You can see where the steel turned color, and just it's basically steel on steel running on that. I think that one rod blew up and took out the other ones. Best I can tell. Looks like the crank, like I say, the crank got overheated, so it's probably lost its temper and is ruined. And so it looks like at this point the heads can be saved, possibly the block, and maybe the cam. Not sure. I would just replace all these rods in a set instead of trying to save some of them and get some more. So I'm gonna take the front timing cover off and see if I can rotate it so I can get these nuts on the top to get the remaining rods out. Okay, I've never seen this before, but the cam retaining plate that was here, bolted here, got taken out. So its pieces are right, part of it's right here, the other piece over there. These are actually up in here somewhere. I just set them there. So never seen that before. That means the cam probably took a pretty hard hit to shatter that retaining plate. And so I suspect the cam is probably destroyed. Once I get it out, I'll know. I can't take it out yet because the lifter is still in it. I'll go ahead and get the crank out first, and then I'll take the cam out once I flip it back upright. But that's not a good sign for the cam. All right, I'm about to start, I'm gonna spin this crank, or try to, and see if I can get these rods out of here. All right, all the pistons and rods are out now, and the crank's got some significant damage on it. Pretty sure it's toast, especially there, it's just overheated. But one other thing, the crank doesn't turn that easy, so there's damage to some main bearings here, because with all the rods out, and the crankshaft should spin, especially with the rear seal off, this crankshaft should spin pretty freely, and it's not. I can't even turn it with bare hand. I have to use a crowbar to try to rotate it around. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the main bearings off and take the crank out and see what's wrong with the crank. This is one of the desirable blocks because it's what's called a 4-bolt main. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. The 3 center main bearing caps have 4 bolts to them, and that's one of the more desirable blocks that people try to find. So if this block can be saved, it's worth keeping. So the damage to the block looks like the rod hit it right there. I can feel a little bump right there. So I have to grind that down flat, and it took a little chunk out of that, but that's not bad enough to where the block can't be reused. Once I get the crankshaft, I can inspect these bores better and see if there's any cracks or major damage where it can't be saved. So let me go ahead and get this crank out now, and I'll show you what's left. By the way, when you're taking the engine apart, one of the critical things you need to do is make sure these caps are numbered. So there's a number 4 right there. There's a number 3 right there. A number 2 right there, and then obviously 1 is numbered, but it's by itself, so you shouldn't have to worry about number 1. But you got to put these caps back on in the same place. and there's an arrow pointing to the front. There's arrow there, arrow there, arrow. So it's critical that you put these caps back on the same place. And it helps to, if you don't number them, you're gonna have to, you can look at the pattern of how it was machined sometimes and find out which goes where, but it's just a whole lot easier if you just number them. If you don't, these might be factory numbers. I'm not sure if this engine's a reman or a factory engine. It had GM pistons in it, so it may be an original engine, but a lot of times they'll stamp the number in there for you. But if you don't, just take a small center punch, and what I do is I usually put 1 dot on 1, 2 dots on 2, 3 dots on 3, leave 4 blank, and obviously the last main bearing is unique, so you don't have to number it. It's obvious which one it is. But you need to number these caps before you take an engine apart. Otherwise, you'll be spending time trying to figure out how to get it back together. All right, the crank is now out, and as I suspected, the number 2 bearing is melted. That's the bottom half, that's the top half. The copper showing most of the bearings already melted away. So this bearing was bad. This is your main bearing, it's number 2. Numbers 3, 4, and 5, and then number 1 weren't too bad. They were still decent. Number 1 is actually starting to go, but it was still okay. So the crankshaft got so hot, and I guess something was going on, but it must have expanded from the heat. But it partially welded itself to the side of this saddle here. There's a ridge right here where I can feel metal that's, well, I can see peel it off. Look at that. So that's metal that came off the crankshaft that got so hot that it welded itself to the side of that saddle. And but because of the heat, it expanded and it was pushing on the thrust bearing back here on the back bearing. So that's why you can see all that copper there. So that's why the crank was tight, because it had partially welded itself here, and that's what made it not spin so easy. So number 2 bearing. So the question is, can this block be reused? If it was my block, I would say no. If it was my engine or my boat and I was going to put the motor back in there, I would not reuse this block. The heat damage has got to be cleaned up, and it may have warped or changed the dimensions of the block. You do all that machining, and then you find out that the crankshaft won't fit because it's not, the tolerances are out and it's warped and distorted, and then you can't use it after you spend almost $1,000 getting the block cleaned, bored, honed, and all that, and then you find out you can't use it because it's distorted. So if this was my engine, I would throw this block away and get a new block. It's a shame because it is a 4-bolt main block, which is nice to have, but this engine's toast. So, all right, all I have left now is to flip it over, take the lifters out, and get the cam out and see if the cam survived and see if it can be salvaged, because that's a nice cam. That cam brand new is $250, and that's not even Mercruiser. That's so the camshaft in the V8s, the 5.0 and the 5.7 and the 6.2, even though it's a Mercruiser marine camshaft, it's actually a General Motors part number that ends in 395. It's called the 383 hot cam or something. But if you Google camshaft 395, let's see, what do they call it? 383 cam with a 395 ending part number, you'll find this cam is used in Mercury V8s. Small block V8s anyway. So I'm gonna try to salvage this cam if I can. If I can't, then we'll just have to buy a new cam or get a new motor. Okay, the teardown is now complete. I got the cam out. It was a little bit difficult to get out. I guess due to the either that number 2 cam bearing is bad or the block's warped, because the cam was very difficult to get out. I had to really work at it to get it to pull out. The cam itself's got a few nicks and bumps, but I think I can clean it up with a Dremel tool and just knock down the little gouges, small little ticks in it, and just on the edge of the lobes, not in the middle. So the cam is salvageable. I don't think the block's salvageable. I forgot to discuss the crank. The crank is definitely not salvageable. That's gone right there. That number, this number 3 and 4 journal is toast. So the cam's no good. Heads are good, block's no good. Not the cam, the crankshaft's no good, the block's no good, the heads are okay. And so anyway, best thing to do is either find another small block core, Vortec core. This is a Vortec engine, or I'm gonna have, I have a proposal for the owner that I'm gonna suggest to him and see if he wants to do that. And it'll be a surprise for another video. Thanks for watching this teardown, and the title of this video is going to be Kaboom or something to that effect, because this thing just grenaded. I guess as far as what caused it, my best guess is This journal here just overheated. Bearings went out on it first, which is odd because all the other bearings on the other journals are okay. So something in particular happened to that number 2 or number 3, 4 journal there. So I'm not sure what originally started, but that was neglected and kept getting worse and worse till it finally just let a rod go, and then that rod took out some other stuff. Because the other bearings and other rods and pistons were okay, except for the shrapnel going through and taking them out on a high spinning engine, and that had been going for some time because the rod was really wobbling a lot on the crankshaft. So as far as what caused that particular one to go, who knows? Really can't tell from this takedown or tear down. All right, that shuts this video down. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already.